noticed that I've been making a really big deal about letters having names and sounds. We've come from doing animal names and sounds and then just lots of exposure to names and sounds. But one thing I haven't spoken about is that we want kids to have receptive abilities and expressive abilities. And I've talked about that with a few of the phonological awareness tasks. But what I want to know is, I'm going to pick a letter and I want to know, let's pick this one. If I show them, this is actually going to be confusing, that's actually easier. If I show them this letter, I want to say, what is this letter's name and what does it sound? So I want them to say P and I want them to say P. So that is the expressive task, that they can look at a letter and know what its name and its sound is. But I also want them to know receptively. So if I've got 3 letters, let's see if this works. Whoopsie. Let's see if I can do this. I want to be able to say, can you find the letter that's name is S? Or I want to say, can you find the one that has the sound T or S or P? So that is the receptive task. So when you think about it, for each letter, there's actually 4 things I want them to do. I want them to receptively do name and sound, and I want them to expressively do name and sound. So it's actually 4 skills all wrapped into one, and we want them to be able to do this for the whole alphabet. So if you say your child knows the alphabet, what I really want to know is, do they have all 4 of those skills, which is huge, and it's a lot of learning for them to do. So that's why the more exposure you can give them throughout your environment, the better it's going to be. And I don't want you to react to this and start drilling them, because that's not the best way to do it either. It's really about having context and learning in context. So the activity I'm going to do with this is just using some of my Nest Kids boxes. So I've got my nature box and I've also got my letters, and this little chalkboard just slides out of the bottom of the nature box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just embed my testing of the kids' ability to do the 4 tasks that I mentioned. So the receptive name and sound and the expressive name and sound. And I'm just going to embed it in an activity where I am exposing them to letters and sounds. And this is just really important that you're always doing this exposure. Now, I have actually created a checklist for you so that you can test all 4 aspects of every single letter of the alphabet. Now, the thing to be careful of is that some of our letters will make multiple sounds. Some of our letters will make the same sound. For example, C and K often make the same sound, and that's fine. But it is actually just knowing for each letter the name and the sound, and knowing that they can do it receptively and expressively. So what I'm doing is I'm just tracing around these letters, and then what I had planned to do is actually instead of filling in the letters with my nature pieces, I want to go around them with my nature pieces, just so that so I'm tracing around them with chalk, and then I'm going to just put lots of beautiful nature pieces around it. So I've got stones and wooden pieces, maybe some bark up the side here. And while I'm doing this, I'm just going to talk a little bit about letter names and sounds. So I'm going to say, oh, this is the letter P and it makes the P sound. What letters can you find? And seeing what they say. You might also get them to find letter names and sounds. I might say, I can see a letter that makes the p sound. Do you think you can find it somewhere around here? And see what they can do. So we're just, giving them multiple opportunities with this collection of letters. And the checklist that I gave you, you might not do the whole alphabet in one go. Instead, you might just do 3 letters like I'm doing now, and you might just check all 3 of them. And in that moment, if you're finding that they don't have the skills that you're looking for, you can actually teach it in that moment. You can say, oh, well, if you didn't know this one is actually the letter S, and it makes the S sound. And this is the letter P, and it makes the P sound. And this is the letter T, and it makes a T sound. And we're just basically providing lots and lots and lots of exposure. And in this time, we are just not only giving exposure, but we're just looking at the letters, and we're just getting familiar with the letters, and just generally getting that familiarity and working on a skill at the same time. We're not putting pressure on them. It's relaxed. It's quite calming. It's actually quite a soothing activity to do. And and in that time, we are just teaching about letter names and letter sounds, and remembering that there are 4 skills associated with this, and that's really, really critically something that I want you to remember. And that's that. So like I said, I've actually created a checklist for you, so you can make sure that you're checking off all 4 of those skills for every letter of the alphabet. So remembering that it's receptive name and sound, and it's expressive name and sound. And the checklist has a little cue on there for you as well, so that you can make sure that you're not forgetting what each of those mean. And you can just embed it. You could do it across a couple of weeks and just slowly do a couple of letters each day. But keeping in mind that you can't actually check it off on the checklist until they've done it without prompting or without teaching. So say you did the exact activity that I've just done today, and they didn't know the T sound expressively, for example, and you taught them in that moment. You can't check it off just because you've taught it. What you then need to do is a week later, you might do it again, and you might say, oh, I wonder if you can tell me what sound this letter makes. And we're just checking in and testing it again. If they still don't know it, teach again. So it's just that flow of teaching and testing.